Hello and welcome to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Rachael is a speaker, inspirational author, and an overcomer. As Rachael is walking through her own journey of grief, she's challenging others to persevere and overcome their own circumstances. Find out more at rachaelflick.com. Here now is your host, Rachael Flick.
Hi friends, welcome to this week's episode of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. I really hope that last week's episode of me helping to explain some of the rawness and the shock that comes after the immediacy of a loss is helpful for you or for someone that you love. And just hearing the heartache that comes and how your body just survives to get you through it is helpful for you. I know that when I lost Micah, I was looking for anything, anyone, any resource that would tell me what was happening to me and how I was supposed to navigate the world around me and understand the pain that I was feeling. And I consumed so many books, even though in many ways I lost the ability to read anything that wasn't immediately relevant. I couldn't remember things. I was rewatching the same episode over and over on shows that I had loved before because I just couldn't remember even seeing them, let alone what was in that episode. And so those things that are going on with you are really normal. And today I'm going to tell you some of the things, actually I'm going to tell you all the things that I did to help cope and survive through my grief. People are going to talk to you about the idea of moving on. You're never going to move on past your loved one. You are going to move through your grief and you are going to become a new person who has different skills, tools, pieces of your identity that you did not have before. And so I'm not talking about how to get back to the old you because that person is gone. And I'm sorry, because not only do you have to grieve your loved one, but you have to grieve the you that was with your loved one and become a new person who has different empathy, different skills, and sees the world differently. You will never be able to see the world with the naivety that you had before your loss. And that is going to change you. I will say, I want to give you hope. People told me it never goes away. It never goes away. And that felt so hopeless and despairing for me in the beginning because I thought there is no way. Like if this never goes away, I cannot survive. There's no way I can do, 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years of year 1, year 2, year 3. In many years, year 2 is more difficult than year 1 because I like the analogy that it's like the anesthesia has worn off. Like year 1 just tells you can do it. It just tells you can get through Father's Day, Mother's Day, birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, your kids, daddy-daughter dance, that football game for your son. It just tells you that you can do it. That's it. It doesn't move you through the pain. I would not expect to be complete or that you're good now. I would say, there's a sign on I-70 headed east when you're coming down out of the mountains, and I think it's the most emotional that CDOT ever gets about traffic signage because it says, truckers, you're not down yet, 7 more miles of steep grades and sharp curves ahead. Are your brakes cool and adjusted? And that's how I want you to look at year 1 is you did it, you survived, you came out of the intensity and the height of it, but you still have 7 more miles of steep grades and sharp curves. And so I am going to share with you from my own personal experience, not as a professional, but as a widow who has looked in every nook and cranny for every possible healing tool and things that would help me. And so I'm not giving you professional advice. I'm giving you my personal experience, but there will be some things that sound therapeutic because they were therapeutic for me. So the first thing that I'm going to encourage you to do is to go and see a doctor or find a doctor. Okay, your body is not okay. We talked about it last week with your fight or flight and the eating, the sleeping. You may need an antidepressant. You may need an anti-anxiety medication. You may need help sleeping. You need someone who's just going to check on you kind of regularly. I think my doctor asked to see me. I think the first time he asked to see me again in 2 weeks, and then he asked to see me in a month. And I went to see him every month for the first year, constantly checking in on me, checking to see how I was doing with any thoughts of suicidal ideation. Was I sleeping? Was I eating? He didn't expect that I was, but I had someone who was keeping track of me, and I strongly encourage you to allow someone professional in your life who is helping you keep track of your body. I remember that in the months 6 through 8, that was a really hard downturn for me. And I started to feel things crashing down around me, and some of the shock began to wear off. And it was some of the hardest months to deal with the loss of Micah. And I remember calling a friend and just saying, not saying, but sobbing, I am not okay. And they took me to my doctor's appointment, and they sat beside me and they took notes. And we had a backup plan in place because I already had that person, that professional in place for me, because I was connected to them right away after Micah's loss, probably within the first 2 to 3 weeks. So I strongly recommend that you find a provider who gets it. If they don't get it, go find somebody else. And you know who knows who gets it? You have widow friends that you know superficially maybe right now, or maybe you know them well and they know good doctors who you can see, who can give you good advice and who won't blow you off or tell you that it's no big deal and that what you're experiencing doesn't matter, or you don't need help for it, or, just give you the suck it up buttercup pep talk. And so that's a really important person on your team. Another important person on your team is going to be your therapist or your grief counselor. You need someone who understands grief. Okay, there is a lot of therapists who are incredibly well-intentioned and who have no idea how to handle grief or how to walk with you through it. There are a wide variety of therapies that will help you. And so you could have a lot of different types of therapists, but you need someone who has some experience with loss and who has some training in that. If you can find a trauma therapist, that's going to be ideal. Okay, that person is going to understand the fight or flight that your body's in. They're going to be able to normalize a lot of what's happening for you. Maybe they have some training in trauma therapies like EMDR or somatic release so that they can help you access some of the grief in your body. I actually had 2 therapists. I had one therapist with the sheriff's office who was intimately acquainted with line of duty loss and PTSD. And then I had my therapist that I had been seeing for a long time who had training in EMDR. And so we would work through memories as they came up. And that was great for me. I needed to see 2 therapists actually in my survival plan, and I realized that this is not realistic for everyone, but I saw a professional every day, 5 days a week for the first year of Micah's loss, and they were all different people. That included a chiropractor because of the strain and the stress that I felt in my body. From an Enneagram perspective, I'm in the body triad, and so I actually feel my emotions as sensations in my body prior to even intellectually knowing what I'm feeling. And so having people helping me care for my body and the strain and the stress that my body was carrying was a huge piece of me staying together. And you have to remember that we're not healing in a bubble, we have to go back to work. We have to care for our children. People are going to ask you stupid questions at 4 months, like, are you better now? I think one of the things I wish I would have said in the last episode was that for most people, a lot of your support is going to die off at the funeral. Like, people are going to come and surround you and fly in and call. And then most people are going to drop off of your support train. You're going to have some faithful people who come into your life who you don't expect. And I want to encourage you that if your intuition says this is a safe person and they seem to understand where you're at, this may be a God-sent person to allow into your world. I know one of my friends, Amy, she's incredible. She's a counselor. She's a mom. and she had been a single mom before getting remarried, and she came in and offered to take my kids. And I just felt safe with her. She hadn't been someone who was close to me prior to this, but she was so protective over my children, and she had the best space at her home with like a zip line and tree house, and my kids absolutely loved going over there and playing with her children. And she asked nothing of me. She picked those kids up, she dropped them off, she fed them great snacks, they had fun. She would check with me even before she allowed other neighbors to come over and play with my children, because she was so protective over the space of their healing. And so look for someone like that who is coming into your life, who is going to become a part of your support team. My chiropractor also did dual duty as a life coach. It was something that he was uniquely gifted in, and he practiced muscle testing, which was really helpful for me being in the body triad, not necessarily knowing even all of the feelings that were being triggered for me. And so having a life coach, having someone that you can talk to about all the changes that are going on for you, being able to process the practical things, who are not necessarily in a therapeutic role, but can just walk alongside of you and who can help you navigate things with, I can't believe that I'm so overwhelmed with this busyness, or am I ever going to feel like myself again? They are going to help you sort through the practicalities. They are going to kind of become your executive functioning for this year in this immediacy while your prefrontal cortex is offline and you are in fight or flight. Your life coach is the person who's going to help you navigate life. I needed a financial planner. Micah was the core manager of our money, and I was very happy to let him walk in that strength in our family. And he managed the finances, the budget, filed the taxes, did all of those things. And so I was really at square one when it came to being able to file a tax return. And now not only was I filing it, it wasn't like when I was in high school filing a W-2 from my part-time job at the pool, okay? Like, it gets really complicated with a home and your children and the loss of a spouse. And I really didn't know how to manage money. I just didn't. And so that person became a core support of my team. And I'm telling you, we started at the basics. I mean, she's getting out a budget form with me that you could print off of the internet. Okay. So give yourself grace if you are starting at square one. Even, I laugh, one of my life goals this year was to learn how to use a power drill. Okay. Like, Micah also took care of the things in our home, and that tool has scared me for some reason. I was just always afraid of it. I don't know if it was because as a kid I was told not to touch it or something like that, but it just felt like this is out of my league, over my head. And so I specifically had a friend come over and teach me how to use it. And I felt really humbled, you guys, to be in this space where I needed this skill, and I'm tired of getting stuck in projects where I need a drill. And I'm like, but I don't know how to use it, so I can't use this tool. A lot of people are going to go to YouTube for this. I just felt like, because of that fight or flight in my brain, I had such a hard time learning new things. And you're learning so many new things. You're learning the path to the new you, this person who has different skills, abilities, compassions, perspectives. And so give yourself time and space as you learn how to do this. I had a liaison. This was because I had a line of duty death, and I needed someone to navigate the larger world with me that I was now stepping into. For you, this might look like kind of an almost secretarial role, or someone who is your designated communicator. It's very likely that you're going to get a lot of communication when you initially have this loss, and it's going to be overwhelming, probably. Texts, voicemails, emails, just phone calls, well-wishers, people who now are approaching you with the business of death, and we need this from you, and we need death certificates, and we need you to do that, and we need you to be here and show up at the Social Security office. And so if you have a friend who can play administrative assistant for you and help you navigate some of these things, that's going to be a huge part of your support team. Exercise for me was non-negotiable. Even though I was very heavy, I felt grief significantly as heaviness in my body when I was faithful to get out in the sunshine. And this can be a 20-minute walk, you guys. This does not have to be anything elaborate. Although I know some people, like y'all, are bulking out and going to the gym and becoming heavy lifters and putting all your anger into those weights, and power to you if that's what feels good to you. And I know that a lot of people do cope that way. But even if it's a very simple form of activity, it is going to give you a better day. Sunshine, okay? Sunshine will be forever on my support team. Being outside and just letting the light shine on your face is going to help reframe your day, I promise. Even if you are having the world's worst day, get your favorite beverage, get your tea, get your coffee, go sit out somewhere that is ideally nature, beautiful, but any deck, any porch, any chair outside is going to work. And so put exercise, sunshine, vitamin D on your support team. I needed massage, okay? There is a thing within the widow community that we call skin hunger. And it is the reality that when you lose your spouse, you lose a ton of touch. I mean, you don't even realize that, when that person is no longer sleeping beside you in your bed, you're not bumping up against them doing the dishes, you're not passing by them, brushing your teeth in the bathroom. I'm not even talking about any kind of sexual touch. I'm talking about just that basic person in your life that maybe you're leaning against on the couch while you watch TV. You are going to feel that ache and that void in your life. And so for me, getting massage was one legitimate way to get some of those touch needs met. It also helped with my body and just the grief that I would feel in soreness in my neck and my shoulders and just places where my body naturally holds tension. You're going to have your own places where your body holds tension. But I really recommend that you do this. And if you can find a massage therapist that does cupping is this therapy where you hook up a silicone or a glass cup to a machine that creates suction, and you put it on spaces on the body that are exceptionally sore. And I will tell you, in my experience, cupping will draw things to the surface and flush out toxins like 4 times faster. Like you can work that knot in massage, for 10 minutes, or you can pop a cup on it for 30 seconds to a minute, and you can be a new person. So if you haven't discovered the magic that I love that is cupping, obviously all of this needs to go through your doctor. This is not professional advice. This is my own personal experience, but it is a great therapy. I also utilized acupuncture. That was something that was really helpful in getting me aligned. My acupuncturist was really connected with trigger points in the body and fight or flight responses, and she worked with me a lot to help me get the rest and digest portion of my body back online and help me start to eat and start to sleep again. I even had a couple times where I was really close to a panic attack, and she would put a needle in just the right spot and my body would melt and I wouldn't have that panic attack because of that. So acupuncture can be a huge help in balancing the energy flow through your body and how everything is completely upside down from where it was before your loss. And if you have had a long disease process and you have been a caretaker, let me tell you, your body needs some love, okay? So I really want you to take me seriously. Even if you didn't have a traumatic loss and you're not in that kind of shock, you have been taking care of someone for a really long time and your whole life has revolved around them. I know my friend who lost his wife said that he set an alarm 1 hour every hour through the night just to turn around and place his hand on his wife's back and make sure she was still breathing. And he did that for months. And if you just think about how that affects your sleeping and your body and your own cortisol and your needs, the things that you do as caregivers are mind-blowing, and we need to honor that, and we need to help you take care of yourself. One of the things that helped me was vacation. Getting out of town. Didn't have to be anything fancy. It could be a staycation. You could get a hotel room in town, but beauty heals. And if you can get away with family or friends that will help you with your kids, like don't go the first year by yourself, ideally, okay? Because you are going to be experiencing all of these feelings of loss, like going on a vacation without your spouse or your loved one. And you're going to feel their absence really distinctly. So if you can do this trip with a friend or a family member, a parent, somebody who can help you navigate the executive functioning of going on a trip and then help you with the kids, get them fed, those kind of things, a vacation can be really healing. Same with time with friends. Make time to sit with a safe friend and either be quiet or process what's going on with you and let them be a part of your world. Don't do this by yourself, okay? I spent a lot of time holed up in my room and I needed that time. I needed to be alone. I needed to be with my thoughts. And those were a lot of the times when, somebody had my kids. Do make time to be alone, but make time for people too. Don't isolate yourself to the point where you feel like no one gets you, you're completely alone. Those are some very dangerous places in grief. And so I'm going to challenge you to stay connected to your community, even if it just means going in your pajamas and laying on your friend's couch, and maybe they give you a snack and a glass of water and you don't have to talk to them. Like there were times when I just needed to not be alone. And my friends would be like, do you need to come over? And I would just literally be a vegetable on their couch. And that was a huge part of my support network. One of the techniques that I discovered was called Saraset. Saraset is a form of it's brainwave optimization. It is a passive form of brain training. So if you imagine every time you have a car accident, instead of towing away the car and sweeping up the glass, we build an overpass, okay? And all of the onlookers are still standing there talking about it, and it's just a mess, right? And every time you have an accident at a major intersection, you just build an overpass. And that is what the brain does when you have trauma or hardship or loss in some way, is it builds a workaround. And so what the Saraset technology does is it has 300 frequencies and it plays it back to you in real time in your ears as music, and your brain sees itself like it's in a mirror and it goes, oh, that is not correct. And it breaks down, it goes in and it takes apart all of the overpasses and it pulls away the broken car and it sweeps up the glass and it sends the onlookers on their way. And it actually helps your brain restore to original functioning. This is a technology created by engineer Lee Gerdes, who was jumped in an alley. So he got a traumatic brain injury and PTSD in one episode. And he said, I've done all the things, I've done all the therapies, I am not okay. And so he said, what if I look at the brain like an engineer instead of a chemist? And he created this technology, and I've done this for several intensive sessions, and then I've done it for my kids, and I highly recommend it. It was one of the things that I felt brought back some of the places that were most missing in me for executive functioning, for sleep, for my memory, things that they call widow brain that I thought were forever lost. And I know that there are widows out there who are 12 years who say they never got it back. This one particular therapy, if I can scream anything from the rooftops, I encourage you to go look this up. It's spelled C as in cerebellum for the brain, Cereset. Okay, so go figure this out because this is like my own personal magic. One of the things that I did for my body was IV infusions. When you are going through grief and intensive loss, your body uses up a ton of your natural resources trying to make more dopamine, trying to make more serotonin, trying to make you feel happy. So when you go to some of these infusion centers and you let them help you pick the best kind of infusion for you, you can restore some of what the body needs to do some of its basic functions for your mental health and physical health. And I will tell you, after 3 months of infusions, I was sleeping better. I was navigating my stress better. I was more patient with my children. I noticed a significant change because I know now that I was nutritionally depleted. And even though I had a lot of supplementation, from my doctor and things that other professionals recommended for me, there is something really powerful about putting it directly into the body and not having to go through the digestive system. And so if you can get some access to that, that was a huge help for me. One of the last things that I'm going to encourage you to put into your life as part of your support system is having a project, a creative process, whether that's doing something on your house, whether that's you creating, bring something in that you enjoy and that you like. I would be working on going through organizing things. I had to move 6 months after Micah passed. And so just going through things was a huge project for me. I really enjoyed decorating my home. And so I would get on and go shopping and just look at beautiful things. And sometimes that meant getting a Starbucks and going to Hobby Lobby, right? And that was what I needed in that moment. That was something positive for me. I really got into like the hyper fixation of jewel art. It's those tiny little beads and like the sticky little stylus pen. And it was just something that I could kind of zone out, but it was still creating something beautiful while I was resting. And so I'm going to encourage you. One of my friends, she like redid her yard. I mean, we're not all going to redo our yard, but that was the thing that she needed as a project that was hers and that was helping her and bringing something positive into the midst of the hard. Also, if you can get to a retreat for widows, widowers, people who've experienced similar kinds of loss, these were some of the places where I experienced some of the most hope and the feeling of not being alone in my loss. I personally recommend Never Alone Widows. You can look them up at neveralonewidows.com. I've interviewed other widows who are part of that ministry. The next retreat they're having is in San Clemente, California, March 1st and 2nd, if you want to put that on your calendar. They also have a retreat for men, for widowers, and I will link that in the show notes. I can't immediately think of the name of their retreat, but it's connected and linked through the same ministry. And that's just a huge part of growing, is realizing that your grief, the things that you feel while it's all your own, it's common. It's common to people who have lost what you have lost, and walking with them and sharing pain with people, joys doubled, griefs, sorrows halved. And so find your people, find your tribe. This is your support network. This is your system of being able to walk through this 1 hour, one day at a time, and knowing who you're going to call, who's on your list for certain things. And you're going to have people in the community of the grieving, widows, widowers, who know people who can help you with these things. If you don't know who they are, you're so overwhelmed that you cannot find them yourself, ask for help, whether that's a Facebook post, whether that's a phone call to a friend, whether that's a text message to some people who you think might be able to refer you to somebody solid who can come onto your team and help walk you through the dark night of the soul, through the valley of the shadow of death. Friends, I just want to encourage you that there are some really powerful tools out there, and you are on the path of healing. This is your healing journey. You will always be changed by your loss, but you will not always be in this much pain. It will not always be this hard. There are seasons coming that have more sunshine than rain, that have more happy days than hard days. And I am a living testament to that and to the power of resilience. And it's because of these tools that I've utilized that I am becoming the woman that I am, and that I'm able to share these stories of hope and resilience and overcoming with you. Friends, if you know somebody who needs these tools, if this would bless somebody else, and you know someone who could utilize these resources, would you share this episode with them? Would you rate and review these episodes and this podcast on the various platforms where you're listening? That helps push out the message of hope and life and transformation to more people just like you and me who need it. Everybody, thank you so much. This has been the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.
You've been listening to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. To find out more, go to rachaelflick.com. While you're there, you can book Rachael for your next speaking engagement. Her inspiring message will be sure to engage and touch the heart of your audience at your next conference, church event, or business function. Go to rachaelflick.com to book her today. While you're online, you can discover more information about all of the platforms that this podcast is on. Also, be sure to click on the social media icons at the top of the page, and you will be directed to Rachael's social media sites. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate if you would subscribe and leave us a review. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time for another edition of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.